Have you ever wondered how an Amish family butchers 20 hogs in 2 days, preserves every pound of meat without a single freezer, and feeds a household of 10 through an entire winter, using nothing but salt, smoke, and herbs growing 20 feet from the back door? The first cut. The moment a hog is processed, the butchering team begins breaking it into sections with a precision that comes from doing the same work every November for a lifetime. The hams come off first, the large rear legs that will spend weeks in brine before going into the smokehouse. Then the bacon slabs, cut from the belly. Then the tenderloins, the most prized cut, handled carefully and often set aside for immediate eating or quick canning. Pork steaks and ribs follow. Each cut goes to a different station: the brine table, the dry rub table, the canning station, or the sausage grinder. The division of labor is practiced and efficient. Every person at every table already knows what to do. Ham curing. A ham destined for brine curing goes into a solution that the hosting family has prepared the night before. The base is water, coarse salt, and brown sugar. The salt draws moisture from the meat. The sugar balances the cure and helps develop color. Into that brine goes thyme, a herb the Amish grow in quantity specifically for this purpose. Thyme contains thymol, a compound with documented antimicrobial properties that reinforces the preservative work of the salt. Bay leaves are added whole. Black pepper goes in cracked. The ham is submerged completely and held down with a weighted board. It sits in the brine for a minimum of 1 week, longer for larger cuts. During that week, the cure penetrates all the way to the bone. When it comes out, the ham is firm, deeply seasoned, and ready for the next stage. It will not see a refrigerator at any point in this process. Bacon is handled differently from ham. Instead of a brine, the belly slabs receive a dry rub, a mixture applied directly to the surface of the meat by hand and worked into every edge and corner. The base is coarse salt. To that, the Amish add black pepper, ground sage, and garlic. Each ingredient pulls its weight. Black pepper adds flavor and has mild antimicrobial properties. Sage, one of the most important herbs in Amish meat preservation, contributes a distinctive savory note and contains compounds that slow oxidation in fat, which is critical for bacon given its high fat content. Garlic brings allicin, a naturally occurring compound with well-documented antibacterial activity. Together, the three herbs create a rub that does more than season the meat. They extend its stable shelf life. The rub slabs are stacked in a cool space, a cellar or unheated outbuilding, and left to cure for several days before moving to the smokehouse. The dry rub is simple. The chemistry behind it is not. Sausage is where the herb knowledge of an Amish household is most fully on display. The trimmings, pieces too small or irregular for whole cuts, go into the grinder. What comes out is raw ground pork that will be seasoned, cased, and either smoked or canned. The seasoning formula used by one former Amish family for every 80 pounds of ground meat reads as follows: 40 tablespoons of salt, 20 tablespoons of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of black pepper, 2 tablespoons of garlic powder, 1.5 tablespoons of ginger, 1.5 tablespoons of paprika, and 1.5 tablespoons of ground sage. Every ingredient has a function. Salt and sugar are the preservation base. Black pepper and garlic provide antimicrobial reinforcement. Ginger adds warmth and has its own preservation properties. It inhibits certain bacteria and slows fat rancidity. Paprika contributes color and mild antioxidant activity. Sage ties everything together with the flavor the Amish have associated with cured sausage for 3 centuries. The mixture is worked into the meat by hand until every pound is evenly coated. The seasoned meat is then packed into casings, intestines cleaned and prepared on butchering day, or formed into logs for slicing. The smokehouse. Every Amish farm that does serious meat preservation has a smokehouse. It is a small outbuilding, typically built from wood or stone, with a firebox at the base or offset to the side and hooks or rods running across the upper chamber where meat is hung. The fire is never allowed to burn hot. Cold smoking, maintaining a temperature below 30 degrees Celsius, is the method used for long-term preservation. Hot smoking cooks the meat and reduces storage time. Cold smoking creates a protective surface layer of antimicrobial compounds from the smoke itself without cooking the interior. The wood selection matters. The Amish prefer hardwoods, hickory for a strong, assertive flavor, apple for a milder sweetness, walnut for a dark and complex note. Softwoods are never used because they produce resinous smoke that makes the meat bitter and deposits compounds that are harmful when consumed in quantity. The cured hams and bacon slabs go into the smokehouse after their brine or dry cure is complete. They hang for days or weeks depending on the thickness of the cut and the desired intensity of flavor. A properly cold smoked ham, hung in a dry cellar after smoking, will remain stable and edible for months. No electricity, no refrigeration, just smoke, time, and the correct wood. The organs are the most perishable part of the animal and are therefore the first items processed after butchering. The liver, heart, tongue, and kidneys do not wait for brine or smokehouse treatment. They go to the canning station within hours of the animal being processed. Pressure canning is the method used for all organ meats. A pressure canner raises the internal temperature of the jars above what a water bath can achieve, which is the only reliable way to destroy the bacteria present in low-acid foods like meat. The organs are trimmed, cut into pieces, and packed raw into sterilized jars. Salt and black pepper go in with the meat. Nothing more is needed for preservation. The pressure canning process itself does the work. The jars are processed for a minimum of 90 minutes at the required pressure. When they come out and the lids seal with a sharp click, the contents are shelf-stable for 12 to 18 months. The liver, once canned, becomes a winter pantry staple, pulled out for frying in butter, a dish the Amish have always prepared and which their children, according to accounts from former community members, consider one of the best meals of the butchering season. The heart is treated the same way. Nothing that came off that animal is considered too humble to preserve and eat. The bones. After the prime cuts, the sausage trimmings, and the organs have been handled, what remains is fat, bone, and scraps. In a modern household, these would go into a bin. In an Amish household, they go into a large cast iron kettle suspended over an outdoor fire. The fat is cut into small pieces and rendered slowly over low heat, a process that liquefies the fat and separates it from any remaining tissue. The resulting liquid is clear, pale yellow lard, one of the most stable cooking fats available, with a shelf life measured in months when stored correctly. The rendered lard is strained through cloth to remove solids, then poured hot into glass jars. As it cools, it solidifies into a smooth white block that seals itself against oxygen. The cracklings, the brown tissue left behind after rendering, are salted and eaten immediately, often by the children gathered around the kettle. They are considered one of the rewards of butchering day. The lard itself goes to the cellar and will be used through the winter for cooking, baking, and as a preservative medium for other foods. Some smoked sausages are stored submerged in lard inside ceramic crocks, an ancient preservation method that works by blocking oxygen and bacteria from reaching the meat. The bones that have been stripped of all usable fat are boiled for broth, which is then canned separately and used as the cooking liquid for scrapple. Scrapple is the final product of butchering day and the one that most fully demonstrates the Amish principle that nothing from the animal goes to waste. After the hams are in brine, the bacon is rubbed, the sausage is cased, the organs are canned, and the lard is rendered, there remains a quantity of small meat scraps, head meat, and trim that does not fit neatly into any other category. These go into the kettle with the reserved bone broth. The meat is simmered until it pulls completely from any remaining bone, then lifted out, finely chopped, and returned to the broth. The kettle is brought back to a simmer. Cornmeal is added slowly and stirred continuously. The same motion, the same pace, for 20 to 30 minutes, until the mixture thickens into a dense, cohesive mass. The seasoning goes in at this stage. Ground sage is the primary herb, the flavor that defines scrapple and distinguishes it from plain cornmeal mush. Black pepper follows in quantity. Salt is adjusted. Some families add a small amount of dried thyme or marjoram at this point. The seasoned mixture is poured into loaf pans and allowed to cool completely. As it cools, it sets into a firm, sliceable loaf. Stored in a cool cellar, scrapple remains stable for several weeks. It is sliced thin and fried in lard for breakfast, browned on both sides until crisp on the outside and soft within. It is the last thing made from the hog, and one of the first things eaten in the morning that follows. The cellar count when butchering day ends and the community has gone home. The hosting family cellar contains the results of 2 days of collective work. The inventory is specific and practical. Cold smoked hams, properly cured and hung in a dry cellar, remain stable for 3 to 6 months. Some traditional Amish families report keeping well-smoked hams for up to a year without spoilage. Bacon slabs, dry rubbed and cold smoked, last 2 to 3 months in a cool cellar. Smoked sausages stored in lard-filled crocks last 4 to 6 weeks. Pressure can meats, the organ cuts, the ground sausage in jars, the canned chicken from earlier in the year, carry a shelf life of 12 to 18 months at room temperature. Rendered lard sealed in glass jars lasts 6 months to a year in a cool space before developing any off flavor. Scrapple, stored in its loaf pan in the cellar, lasts 3 to 4 weeks. The numbers add up to a family fed through winter without a single visit to a grocery store for protein. Every product on those shelves was made from animals raised on the same farm, seasoned with herbs grown in the same garden, preserved using methods learned from the same family line that used them a generation before. The cellar in December looks different from the cellar in October. In October, it holds the summer harvest, jars of vegetables, fruit preserves, dried beans, and corn. In December, it holds the winter supply of meat. Together, they represent a household that has made itself genuinely independent of any supply chain for the coldest and most demanding months of the year. Late autumn is the butchering season in Amish country. When the temperature drops and the farm work slows, the community gathers. 80 people, men, women, and children, arrive before sunrise at the hosting farm. The men work the animals. The women manage the kettles, the cutting tables, and the canning stations. Children carry, clean, and watch. By the end of the second day, 20 hogs have been processed into roughly 4,500 pounds of preserved meat. Nothing is wasted. Everything has a destination. The 2 tons of meat that enter the preservation process on butchering day do not come out the other side as 2 tons of identical product. They come out as hams, bacon, sausage, canned organ meat, scrapple, rendered lard, and bone broth. Each item the result of a specific technique applied to a specific part of the animal. Each technique chosen because it matches the properties of that cut and the storage conditions available. No refrigerator is involved at any stage. No synthetic preservatives are added to any product. The herbs, sage, thyme, garlic, black pepper, ginger, juniper, rosemary, bay leaf, are not decorative additions to the curing process. They are functional ingredients chosen across centuries of practical use because they do specific things to specific problems. Sage slows fat oxidation. Garlic provides antimicrobial reinforcement. Thyme contributes thymol to the brine. Ginger inhibits bacterial activity in ground meat. The Amish did not know the names of those compounds when they developed these formulas. They knew the results. Meat cured with sage lasted longer than meat cured without it. Hams brined with thyme kept better through warm spells than hams brined without it. The formula was refined by observation across generations until it worked reliably every November, in every cellar, without failure. That is the entire science of Amish meat preservation. Not a laboratory method, not a commercial process. A set of practices tested by 300 winters and passed from one generation to the next across a cutting table on a cold November morning while the kettle fire burns outside.